Hi, and welcome to our latest episode of the Kith Kin Podcast, Stories from the Hospitality Industry. And I'm really happy to welcome Gabrielle here to tell us all about the ups and downs that have brought her to where she is and what makes the hospitality industry so special. So, hi, thank you so much for coming and joining me on this conversation. So, can we just start with an introduction to who you are and what you do?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on, Cassie. This is great. My name is Gabrielle. I am a marketing consultant, so I work directly with kind of founders, COOs, ops directors, ops teams in the hospitality industry, and helping them to develop their marketing strategies.
Fantastic. And I know you've worked with some amazing people and some fantastic brands as well, but we'll get to that. But where I want to start, as always on this podcast, where I want to start is, where did this all start? Where did you start with in hospitality? How did you get into hospitality at first?
Okay, so I should probably start from the beginning. I am from London, so I grew up in Southeast London. I have quite a lot of ancestors that we go back generations. And I've got a few ancestors that used to own pubs or have owned pubs in London for hundreds of years.
Wow.
So, yeah, they're really cool. I think hospitality is just in my blood and it's in my kind of destiny. So we used to own the Catherine Wheel, which is in Borough Market. It's no longer there. It's Foxtons. Foxtons now. But the Tiger in Camberwell, which is still there. So, yeah, there's a few. And I've kind of...
So proper London boozers, that what everyone
proper
thinks
Southeast London girl.
Yeah. Oh, how exciting! Because when anyone thinks of a pub, the first thing people think of, well, or the second or third, but certainly right at the top is that proper London pub.
It's a proper working class boozer.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I'm really proud. Like a couple of 100 years later, that someone in this family is still working in hospitality and still loves it. So amazing. That's where I kind of started. My personal first taste of hospitality and the excitement that comes with it came at around 16, 17, I'd say. So like most teenagers my age, me and my friends were kind of getting into the West End with our fake IDs, dressed up to the nines, high heels.
You mean underage drinking? Yes.
I know. Which today is a very big no-no, but we used to go to really, really grown up places. We used to get into Café de Paris on Leicester Square. My friend Liam Norval used to run a night there. He didn't let me in, I have to say, disclaimer, but he still works in the industry today. He's the director of Hospitality Titans. And so he is another lover of the industry. DC Club, which is on Regent Street, which no longer exists now. Movida, all of those exciting places. A couple of wine bars off of Trafalgar Square. So yeah, looking back, kind of those nights were so exciting, and I loved the atmosphere, the energy of those bars, watching the cocktails being made behind the bar, and just feeling the buzz of that place and living a life surrounded by these older, sophisticated people. It's just the buzz of hospitality that's never quite left me. From that day to walking into a restaurant now, I still get butterflies. So yeah, it was never going to leave me from that time, really. That kind of glamour and sophistication was me for life.
And I guess it's also that thing of going, oh, this is what adults have been doing all of this time. I know the thing is, when you become an adult and you go, oh
yeah.
This is what I wanted.
Bills are awful. And yeah, definitely. I wanted.
Yeah, this idea of actually
to be a grown up.
Yeah. This is what adults do, is it? These sophisticated places where they get dressed up and have these exciting times, and
absolutely.
So what happened next? So you're going there, obviously underage, but as a young person, really feeling the vibe and the excitement and all of that that's going on. And obviously, certainly certainly in London, that is a place to
it was
experience all
amazing.
this. Yeah,
Amazing growing up here, definitely.
yeah,
So I then went to uni in Nottingham. So I very quickly got a job in a cocktail bar, and was kind of lucky enough this was around 2007, 2011 to 2011. I was really lucky enough to be part of an incredible hospitality scene in Nottingham at that time. So there are a group of kind of core people that worked in Nottingham at that time that still work in the industry today. So there are a couple of guys who worked in a cocktail bar called Brass Monkey, which is Ali Reynolds. He looks after Stowning Whiskey globally today. Gareth Evans is the F&B director for Ennismore today. There's a guy called Dougie Duncanson, which looked after a bar called Market Bar. He went on to work for Diageo for 12 years in Africa. So yeah, really lucky that there was kind of a group in Nottingham at that time who were deeply passionate about hospitality. And I think that only kind of intensified my love for it. And made us all kind of better. I think one of the best things about our industry is it doesn't really matter how much success you've achieved. If you work in hospitality, you're in the same club. You can spot another hospitality person from a mile off, and you instantly have that camaraderie.
Mostly because they're smiling, because we learn how to smile, don't we? And so
learn to be nice.
Mostly when people smile at you, you go, hospitality.
Yeah, I think it's just it's a lovely industry where it's so non-hierarchical, so you can be mates with absolutely anyone. Actually, that you've just reminded me that there was a night when I used to work in Nottingham. We were all out for like a drink after shift, and in this kind of dodgy rock pub called Turfton, and absolutely out of nowhere, in walked Hester Blumenthal and Sat Baines.
Yeah.
And they were having an incredible night, and by the looks of it, and so were we. We were having a great night, and I was just a young bartender at the time, and we spent the night and early hours of the morning having like the best time and getting advice and just sharing stories about the industry. And I mean, this is 2010; like they were in the peak of their career. Peak. They certainly didn't peak then, but. Yeah, having a lot of success.
It was very, very exciting. I mean, I don't think actually on the previous episode of this someone's mentioned Sat Baines, because obviously Sat Baines had his restaurant, he still does. Yeah, in an underpass in Nottingham. So it's a really quirky sort of very beautiful. So being in Nottingham and having his mate Heston come and visit would have been exactly.
It's so cool. That moment, we were just a group of people who loved the industry and loved the work that we do. So that it was a real leveler.
Yeah.
And so I think my time in Nottingham, it all got a bit out of hand, and I think it was just so much fun.
But all of those venues that you're describing, that was that's pretty much the independent scene in Nottingham, isn't it? That's
it's so cool.
And way back then, I mean, because actually, when people think about hospitality now, we do think a lot about the brands, but actually back then. So we're talking 15 years
Nottingham
ago.
is full of independence. Yeah,
it was the brands, but even the brands were there weren't very many brands on the high street. It was an independent scene in Nottingham. See, I'm Leicester, so just down the road. This rivalry. Anyone that knows Midlands knows there's a rivalry, Nottingham, Leicestershire. So I was at the same time.
Absolutely.
I had my venues in Leicester, but it was very much the independent scene had sort of dominated the landscape, and that made it very exciting because you had these really passionate people.
Absolutely. You had a guy called John O'Mays on a few episodes ago.
Yes.
And he used to work at this really cool independent cocktail bar in Leicester called Myango. That was really cool. Really good scene in there, really good music. Before like DJs like well, not DJs were cool, they've always been cool, but like you didn't really get that in independence before. And you had these like really cool cocktails and like really good like vinyl DJs. It was really good. Really good.
It was a great time. But yeah, so that's me going back to my youth. I was operating independence at that time. But anyway, let's back to your story, not my story. I'll go reminiscing. let's go back to your story. So what next? So you're in Nottingham.
So yeah, I left Nottingham. I was having too much fun and fell 4 flights of a spiral staircase and broke my ankle.
Oh wow!
Yeah, don't feel too sorry for me. It was after a few tequilas.
Oh, so it's self-inflicted. Okay, fine.
Yeah. So I left Nottingham, tail between my legs, slightly bruised ego. And after quite a severe dressing down from my mum, I decided to have a bit of a rebrand, grow up and get a job, get a proper job. Yeah. So I left the industry and went to work for a kind of...
This is what parents do. They tell you, you're in hospitality, it's not a proper job.
Buzzkill.
Go and get a proper job. Yeah, go get a proper job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which is bad because this is a proper job. This is an industry that I love. Yeah. So I grew up, got a proper job, worked for a B2B tech PR agency. But although I wasn't working for the industry, 2 of my most amazing dining experiences happened at that time that kind of defined the career I was going to have. So the incredible agency I worked for had a tradition that they would take us for incredible Christmas dinners every year. So I was there for a few years, but the first year I went to the chef's table at Caprice. And that, as you can imagine, was incredible. And that night just happened to be my birthday. So I was pulled into the kitchen. Yeah, it was amazing. I got pulled into the kitchen to cook a scallop course, and just the bars, like the dining in the kitchen was just incredible anyway. That the passion, just the intensity of the kitchen just was so exciting. The most magical part of that experience was the head chef and the sous chef that taught me that scallop dish is a guy called Sean Burbage and Jake Rumbelow. And I would then 10 years later end up working with them at the Ivy Collection.
Oh,
and this was 2012. Yeah, so a good 10 years later, which is just a magical thing about our industry is it goes round and round.
Absolutely.
The next year was even better. So we went to, not even better than Patrice. Sorry, Patrice. But I want to come back. We went for dinner at Alain de Roz at the Connaught. And that experience just changed the way I think about hospitality. It was from the moment we arrived, we are ushered through the reception, taken downstairs to the PDR, which is in the middle of the wine cellar. So you're surrounded by wine. And the menu paper, like Ellen had chosen the menu paper that I had. I've still got it today. It's like this semi-translucent paper with silver sequins in it. So it's so magical. And that she chose it. It just felt so special. And I'd like, the waiter would pour over the consommé over my ravioli in one of the dishes. And there's everything, like the atmosphere, the music, the service, the ingredients I'd never had before. I had like an oyster velouté with caviar, and I just remember it thinking like it was just the best thing since sliced bread. And it is. It was just, I think that full sensory experience and the way I can still remember it is exactly why I work to bring brand experiences to people today. Like it's exactly the reason I do what I do. And I think how lucky are we that we get to work in an industry that creates experiences and creates memories that stay with us for a lifetime. And like, what other industry can you say that does that? There is very little jobs out there that you can say that you contribute to people's happiest memories. And that's really special.
It is. And it's the stories. I mean, I honestly, I'm genuinely goosebumpy. I mean, I get goosebumpy all the time, but really goosebumpy. You're telling such beautiful stories of these experiences that have been. But which is wonderful. But it's that bit
everyone
behind,
in the industry has.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's the bit behind, isn't it? It's the fact that in this industry, we get to create that. So somebody created that for you. And it's that huge amount
It's an honor to do that.
Yeah. And exactly. And for as a customer, the respect you have for that, you know, when it's done well and you know somebody is, it feels so personal. I mean, you just described it. I was literally writing it
It's
down.
amazing.
I mean, yeah, it's just beautiful.
I was on a date the other day, and the guy said that he went to restaurant Gordon Ramsay 25 years ago, and he can still remember exactly what the maitre d' said to him. Like, that is so amazing and so rare that you get that. And really special.
But it is that whole thing of what hospitality is all about. So you have got this job working in PR.
Yeah,
you get to be. You've been to 2 amazing meals. So
incredible, and that was it. That kind of signed me up. I didn't. I left. I went to Australia for a couple of years to work for an investment bank. But I did come back, and I kind of thought to myself, what if there's one thing? Kind of approached my career and thought, if there's one thing I'm never going to get bored of talking about, what is it? And there was no doubt in my mind it was hospitality, food, and drink. So I joined a hospitality recruitment company called Change, and then went on to work for an incredible business called Cirrus Inns. So they are a collection of 27 individually branded food-led pubs with bedrooms, owned by a really charismatic guy called Langan. And Cirrus was just a dream. My boss was a guy called Paul Boyce. And to this, he's lovely. And to this day, he's been the best boss I've ever had. He had the patience for me. He truly understood me and guided me in a time that I probably didn't know that about myself. He understood the person I was without me kind of having to explain. And I think a lot of people in hospitality need that. A lot of us are kind of like, we're just still figuring out who we are and what the person we are. And he really saw that in me. And I had 3.5 years of Cirrus and just spent the most incredible time traveling around the UK in the most beautiful locations, having the best job marketing incredible food and drink experiences. And I just felt so lucky and had the best time. I contributed to them winning a couple of industry awards, which I'm still incredibly proud of, at the Publican Awards. So it was a really, really special time. I really grew up there and fell even deeper in love with this industry in that job. I was really, really lucky to have that experience. And my boss, Paul, kind of recommended me on to then work at the Ivy Collection, which is an entirely different experience in itself.
Yes.
It wasn't the British countryside, that's for sure. I was kind of back in London, very fast-paced, high budget, high visibility environment. I got to work on kind of, the focus was like big, bold, press-worthy campaigns. I opened a couple of sites for them. So I'd already done a launch with Cirrus, but I launched a couple of more with the Ivy Collection. So I launched their Chichester site on the South Coast, and I launched the Windsor site, helped to launch the Windsor site over Jubilee weekend, which was one of the wildest, it was most intense experiences of my career. It was incredible, big learning curve, but great. And then went on, so that was kind of a nationwide kind of, not high street, but premium luxury high street.
No, absolutely.
I'd say.
I guess the fact that you have this passion for the industry anyway, as both having worked in it early, but also these really amazing experiences, which stories you are still carrying with yourself. That actually, from a marketing point of view, that's really helpful, because you have this understanding of what the customer's valuing in these experiences.
Absolutely.
Rather than just here we're selling food and drink. what is it the customers value? And I think that, I mean, obviously everyone's familiar with sort of the Ivy collection as a good example of that, in that they have a really good understanding of what it is that they are, which is, I guess, why their campaigns are big and bold, aren't they? Because it's this understanding of what it is that they are providing to their customers. And it's not, I mean, food and drink obviously is important, of course it is, but it's the experience, isn't it? It's all of that stuff that becomes far more valuable.
Yeah, we all contributed to bringing that sense of the Ivy West Street into your everyday life. So that glamour and that kind of sense of luxury on a much more approachable level. So you're getting, and it's the real deal. Like, everything you touch is beautiful, but you get it at an approachable price point.
Yes.
Which is something really special. And you probably, everywhere that they have, I looked after at one time or another during my time there, all 42 sites, including West Street. And it most probably is the best restaurant in those locations that they're in. It's very, very visible marketing to work on, and an honor to look after that. Such a beautiful brand and beautiful company over that time. Richard's done something incredible with that brand.
It is, and it is an absolute challenge to take something so iconic and then be able to roll it out as that brand. And it needs to have that, because in order to do that, there has to have been that very clear identity and purpose as to what it is you're providing to those to customers. And it is that. So it's all, I mean, I know it's not every day for everybody, but it is for a lot of those customers. It's sort of that everyday luxury, isn't it? And spoiling yourself on an everyday basis, you know, not every day, but you know what I mean.
And if you aren't fortunate, enough to be able to have that in your everyday, it also serves as the perfect location to have that special occasion. If that is what you save up for and go for in that once a year moment, it's perfect for that. So
Brilliant.
So I left the Ivy collection and went on to work for another avenue entirely of hospitality, which is a bit more of a luxury avenue. So I looked after the group that encompasses Langan's Brasserie in Mayfair, the upstairs at Langan's, which is the members club above, a small collection of premium Italian brasseries called Chuck's, a members club in South Ken called Kicks, which is a health and wellness club, and their sister gym called Kicks U. So again, that was a really different experience, marketing to more, I'd say, an ultra high net worth audience, perhaps on a bit more of a constrained budget than I was allowed from my time at the Ive collection, which was another kind of challenge entirely. No, that was really interesting as well. Enjoyed that.
And I guess the challenge there, isn't there, is to one, because obviously as you're talking about the budget being different, but also that high net worth customer and how you but I think this is the same for everybody. It just happens to be a particular segment, but it's how you tailor the messaging to them and reach them, which I guess is the same for everybody else, but it's certainly not in that mass. You're not in that mass anymore.
Absolutely not.
It's not just
more
a simple,
bespoke, it's more personalized.
And it's not as simple
and that's changing.
And it's not as simple as just putting out social media posts. But I mean, I argue daily that chasing after social media posts these days is not necessarily the best use of people's time, because social media is changing so quickly. But when you've particularly got a niche, it's about understanding how you reach them and what you communicate to them.
I think you are absolutely right. And I think the luxury of today is entirely different from even a year ago. And how we reach those types of audiences has completely changed. And I don't think we should make any kind of assumptions about what that kind of person wants, they don't necessarily want caviar for breakfast. You need to be realistic. And I think you need to have an authentic understanding of who these people are and what they want. And obviously quiet luxury is on the rise and it's a bit more trendy now, but it's always been true. It's not about being outlandish all the time. And even a year ago, it was for my time at Langan's, for example, it was, how can we make full campaigns that stand out, that look luxurious, that give you that sense of luxury without necessarily having to pay prices of crazy prices. So, but even that sense of luxury, I've listened to a lot of podcasts recently. Rosie Shepherd has a great podcast about luxury hospitality, and how we approach the new luxury audience. So it's something that's really super interesting.
No, it is, absolutely. And I know that, it's that whole idea. It's not that it's necessarily different to the other it's not that people necessarily want it. Well, in fact, they don't want anything different. I mean, the whole point is that we're all just human and we're all craving the same things, aren't we? We're all craving that place where we feel we belong. And that's no different. Because
I agree.
It's that place where you feel that this is your place and you belong here. And that's the same for any target customer. It's just, so the key is knowing the target customer, isn't it? And having that, being able to emotionally connect with them.
Personalized experience. Yeah, absolutely. You want to get that feeling, like I was saying about that guy that remembered what the maitre d' said to him. You want that experience everywhere you go. And it doesn't have to be at restaurant Gordon Ramsay. It can just be that beautiful place that you go and get your paper and a coffee on a Sunday morning. That's hospitality in my book, in my eyes.
And it's this whole idea, isn't it, that I mean, I know when I opened my first place, it was, I'd worked in so many places and I was magpieing lots of ideas. But one of the key drivers for me had been, I'd worked with Michelin star chefs. And I was like, why is this only being saved for the posh places? Why can't this be much more everyday? And it was pulling that all back down into the more everyday scenario. It was part of the purpose of why I was creating it. But I always say exactly that, when somebody goes out just even for a takeaway coffee, they're going out to spoil themselves. You don't,
they can make a coffee at home.
Yeah. Or they can make, or in the office or whatever. They don't, if they are actually walking out the door to grab a coffee and even stand in the queue, it's part of an experience about spoiling themselves, giving themselves a treat. It might not be, they might not be spending a lot of money on it, but it is still a treat and it's still important. So it's still part of an experience.
Absolutely. I think, and to bring that back to marketing, I think that's even more of a reason to invest in something like an incredible CRM system, because the more you know about your guest, the more personalized your service can be. And I think even with the enhancements of AI within CRM systems, is that you can cheat the system and find ways of communicating to them that feels more personal according to their preferences. So in order to provide a better service, that's what we do.
And absolutely. And I think that this keeps coming up as a sort of theme in when I'm talking to people on this podcast, is that the technology changes, particularly, I mean, we're in a moment now, post lockdown. So in fact, it's not even post lockdown, is it? We're talking about the last 18 months, even the last 6 months.
Absolutely.
How fast
now people have recovered.
How fast the technology is coming on board and how quickly businesses are able to adopt it and learn how much of an impact this technology could be having on their business. So instead of them having to go and do it themselves, it can be done for them really quickly. It's absolutely fascinating.
How we can kind of keep up with guest expectation, which has hugely changed since our lives have changed. We're no longer willing to put up with substandard products or service any longer. Not that we gave it before, but people's game has been risen, bar has been risen, and we need to keep up.
I mean, I guess this is also something I've spoken about recently, is that I'm not detracting from anyone's hardship. When people are talking about cost of living crisis and they're saying customers going out, of course that is the case. But I think that there's a point being missed here, is that it's not just that people may or may not have as much money. I think the choices to not go out is far more complex than that. And that actually, for a lot of people, it's not that they can't afford to go out, because if they wanted to, they still would. They'd find a way to, like they always used to. It's that we're now in competition.
Value.
So it's value. Is it worth it to me? Am I going to get my needs met by spending that money? Because if I'm not, then I'll find a cheaper alternative. And so it's not.
I'm still willing to spend it.
Yeah,
I just don't want to waste it on the wrong thing.
I don't want to waste it. And so I think the customer is becoming much more. Well, it's not. It's a cultural change that the industry has to keep up with. Basically, it absolutely has to be worth it to the customer. It always has been. It's just that those standards have changed because the customer is changing.
And we've never had it so tough, right? Like cost of living, Brexit, the new budget, like the kind of challenges presented to operators now it's never been harder. But I think therefore we should be like, okay, how do we approach our guests and understand our guests better in order to provide the same service but to a more targeted audience?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what we step in to do.
Yeah, brilliant. So where are you now? What are you working on now? Where did it go to?
So I spent a brief time at a global company, which is incredible, called Rhubarb Hospitality Collection, and learning another avenue of hospitality. They originated as a high-end events company and have a lot of different restaurants and bars throughout the world. So I worked with teams in New York, Berlin, and London. My boss there was a lady called Katie Harrell, and she taught me an enormous amount about confidence and self-belief. And I think I had my confidence knocked for the last two kind of experiences that I'd had, and I'm super grateful to Katie for teaching me more about confidence and to kind of stand up and believe in myself. So I'm super grateful for her, and I needed it so I could move into my next challenge, which is becoming a marketing consultant. So fantastic. I'm really super grateful for that.
That's amazing. So now you're running your own consultancy, working for your own clients.
Yes, which brilliant. Seems wild to say, but and it's been a roller coaster. I've learned so much. I never knew anything about tax before, or paying myself before, or like self-promotion. Self-promotion has been one of the hardest things. Like if you've been brought up to be not braggy, don't look at me, don't talk about yourself very much, to actually you need to talk about yourself and you need to have confidence in order to get work and to pay your mortgage.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride, but yeah, great. And I wouldn't change it. I've got flexibility, I've got freedom, I can work on coolest projects, and lots of different projects and work with lots of different people around the industry. I think I've made more friends in the last few months being a consultant than I have for years working in a permanent role. So yeah, it's been cool. No looking back.
Fantastic. So as part of your marketing consultancy, what is it that you do for who is it you're working for? I'm not necessarily names, because obviously that's between you and your client. But what typically what businesses are you working with?
So I've got a few ongoing retainers. So I'm working on launching a 2-story rooftop bar and restaurant in the centre of Dublin. Nice. So that's going to be a really cool project. It kind of is the tallest building in Dublin, overlooks Dublin. That will be launching in the summer. Really high budget, beautiful touch points. Everything is super luxurious, which will be great. Also, left field, I'm working with a couple of super yacht clients So a couple of brokerages, which I'm helping to kind of promote their charters and sales of super yachts, but also a couple of private super yacht clients as well, trying to boost their chartering agenda. So that's very cool. And a couple of other things can't really talk about, but
no, totally understandable. So when you're working with a new client, what is it you need from them? What do they need to have an understanding of for you to understand their business and what they need?
I think the challenge of consulting is that you have to get into a business and understand it very quickly in order to kind of ascertain the environment, understand where things might be or could be improved, where you can have the biggest impact, because you don't often have a lot of time. A lot of these projects are very hard and fast, and you want to make a big impact very quickly. So a deep understanding of their brand values, their audience, what tech stack they're using, what CRM system in particular that they're using currently, and then taking a look at their public-facing platforms, seeing what content is going out and how well you can communicate according to what you know about their values and their guest demographics. So everything else kind of is the prettiness and the bow that you put on the top, but it's the boring bit that really you have to understand. It's the data, it's the audience segmentation, it's that kind of foundations that you really need to understand in order to make the comms pretty on the top.
Yes, and I think that's kind of so. As you say, working sort of sometimes with independent hospitality and the sort of smaller operators, sometimes that they are being flooded with sort of promises that, as I say, I think I mentioned it earlier, sort of like social media, come and do your social media and everything will be great and we'll get you new customers through the door. But actually, if that pre-work hasn't been done, where you don't have the understanding of who the customer already is or what the customer wants and but even more importantly, that who you are as a business, who are you? What are you doing? Those things are so important for somebody else to roll, to actually be able to create that communication for you, isn't it? And it's, and I think, I think places might get, or people sometimes being told it's just social media. You just need to do more of this. And actually
marketing is just colouring in.
Yeah.
Which I hear so often. I agree. I think social media managers do an incredible job and they're super talented at what they do. But I think some businesses make the mistake of bringing in social media managers too early or just taking that approach. Whereas I think you need to kind of have somebody with the experience in their career to understand the difference in demographics, the difference in kind of platform split, the understanding of what else is going on in the market, a commercially minded person, and also someone that understands consumer psychology, because you can put out a caption that says, come to dinner on Valentine's Day and have a set menu for £42. It's going to do the job for some people. But how could you twist that? How can you tell a story? How can you sell it and understand what people are after in order to sell it properly? I think that's the real difference between what a marketing director does and what each expert in their own individual silo does.
Yeah, absolutely. And because it is understanding the purpose of the business, understanding the customer, and then knowing what the stories are that will tie the whole thing together, which is all about the emotional engagement, isn't it?
Absolutely. And someone that can sit back from all of that and look at, okay, what's working, what's not working, how can we pivot? Why was that working and now it's suddenly not working? And kind of orchestrate each of those different specialisms in order to keep the kind of cogs whirring. So,
and I guess it's really tough for you because actually a lot of marketing is sort of you're almost a scientist out there doing these experiments. And sort of like, you've got all the theory, but we need to experiment with all of this. We know the data, but we need to see where is it going to hit. And I imagine quite often in your role that actually you're always going to be working under constraints, because marketing always is.
Absolutely.
But you know, that constraints of both time and money. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but the constraints of both time and money means that you need your depth of experience to be able to know what's likely to hit quickest.
Yes.
And that's where experience comes in.
Absolutely. I agree. And also to have the bravery and the confidence to back your decision making, and to say, yes, okay, I backed such and such last week, but the environment and the landscape has changed so much in a month, a year, that no longer works. And now we have to put all of our budget, that hard-earned budget, that small margin that you have, we now need to put it in this direction. And for them to have the confidence in you and the trust in you to follow that direction as well. And for you to understand that might not work, because you know, we're living in such a fast-paced environment that what worked a month ago might not work, even with the best intentions and the best knowledge, might not work again. So,
and the reason for that is partly because technology is moving so quickly, which it is. I mean, particularly social media. Oh, it just makes me like, it's so fast to how you have to try. You're not just keeping up. You're not just keeping up with the algorithms or the different platforms. You're keeping up with the trends on social media, and you're keeping up. You're trying to deal with the desensitization of the customers as well, which is tough to challenge. But so you've got all tech. But then I said, we were talking earlier just about the tech and the availability of data. But you're also changing, you know, particularly at the minute, just how. I know we just discussed it earlier, but that fast pace of cultural change of the customer as well, and it's just changing all the time.
Absolutely, different, and learning kind of different ways to communicate with them, learning about how to keep them. Brand loyalty is really, really tricky, and I think I saw a post of yours actually not too many days ago that was saying about the race to the bottom in terms of pricing. That's the mistake that people often make by chasing customers. And really what you need to do is strap yourself in, learn the ride and enjoy it, and learn that things are going to change. The only thing that's consistent is change.
It's exactly that. I know, I remember that post, and it's all about being, you can chase that. It's much more sustainable for you to become a magnet for customers, which is a tricky thing to do, but it requires that you know, you need to know what your purpose is, and you need to sort of plant it in the ground and then build everything around it and be the magnet that pulls people in, rather than chasing after the next big thing, because it changes too fast.
And having the strength to stick by it and not try and be everything to everyone. But think, no, this is my line in the sand. This is my kind of lightning rod, and I'm going to stick to it. And they will come if we're consistent in our messaging and consistent with our offering. They will come. If that is true.
No, it's brilliant. Thank you so much. I mean, that is absolutely fascinating.
Thanks for having me.
Fascinating conversation. It's really, honestly, genuine pleasure. And how can people get hold of you if they want to find out more from you?
I have a website, so the hospitalitymarketer.co.uk. I'm also on social, so you can find me on Instagram, gg_hospitalitymarketer. Won't put my phone number on here, but my email address and my phone number are on my website.
Okay, brilliant. That's absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for your time.
No worries. Thanks so much.
Brilliant hearing from you. And honestly, your stories, some of them are really, really exciting, and it's exactly what's so lovely about the hospitality industry and our shared passion for
it.
Thank you so much.
Should have a glass of wine and hear a few more of yours.
Thank you. 100%. I promise you next time I'm in London, I will come and let you know I'm there.
Lovely to see you. Thanks, Cassie.
Thank you.